In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the grade for this example student poetry essay. Before moving forward, please make sure that you have read through the sample student essay and you have graded the sample student essay on this rubric, the bottom giving an overall grade, a percent, and an explanation of why you earned this grade. When you're grading on the rubric, you should be highlighting the portions of the rubric that you feel apply. So when you're done, your rubric will look something like this. If you haven't done this yet, hit pause now and come back when you're ready. So this sample student essay, I graded as follows. Let's start with the ideas category. Zooming in the ideas category, you see that this essay mostly falls in the C, meeting the standard. The writer shows a basic understanding of how the poet uses literary devices to convey a theme. So by this, what I mean is that the understanding of how the devices connect to the theme is okay. It's not great, and some of the connections are a little weak. In fact, I even noted that at times the writer's analysis is incomplete. And to show you this, let's look at the second body paragraph, the one about rhyme. So in this case, we're talking about the rhyme between the words wine, divine, and mine. And the author says that this rhyme talks about how white men live and how white men live pleasantly and that that's enjoyable and that they have little problems. So first of all, I can kind of see how wine, divine, and mine shows an exquisite lifestyle, but then this use of rhyme is supposed to convey theme. And the theme here is supposed to be that life is full of greatness and hardships. And I'm not entirely sure how this connects the idea of life is full of greatness and hardships. Maybe this is supposed to be an example of greatness, but it's not clear to me how hardships also exist alongside the greatness. That connection is just missing, and it's not expressed. The theme discussed may be simplistic or cliche. So in this case, we have a very simple theme. Life is full of greatness and hardships. Life is full of greatness and hardships. Yeah, life has good moments and bad moments. It's kind of an obvious idea. It's not very subtle. It's not very complex. It's not very original, and it's hard to argue against it. It's pretty obvious that life has good moments and bad moments. So the theme itself here is simple, earning a C. The textual support is accurate. It's not super compelling, but part of the problem is that the argument for the theme isn't that compelling, so it's hard to have compelling textual support if your thesis isn't that compelling to begin with. In terms of organization, this is an excellent essay. In terms of the demonstration of use of transitions, there are lots of transition words throughout the paper. The essay has multiple paragraphs. The organization is logical. I didn't give an A in terms of enhancing the reader's understanding, and this is because the ideas themselves were kind of weak, and so it's hard to organize ideas well if the ideas aren't super exciting to begin with. The essay had an introduction with a hook and a thesis. The hook is a quote. So you have, I have discovered in life that there are ways of getting almost anywhere you want to go if you really want to go, said Langston Hughes. I mean, this is a beautiful hook. It's a really great way to start off the paper with a quote from this particular poet. The weakness here is that the author does not really connect this hook to the thesis. The thesis is about life being full of greatness and hardships, and that doesn't really connect to this quote. The transition from the quote to the thesis is a bit rough. It's not that well done. So because of that, the introduction is B quality rather than A quality. In terms of the conclusion, going back to the rubric, You see ends with a conclusion that summarizes the argument and attempts to discuss its significance. Again, so there is a conclusion. It does restate the thesis. In conclusion, Langston Hughes uses symbolism, rise, and connotation to portray his theme. Life is full of greatness and hardships. So we have the thesis again. But then the rest of the conclusion, it sort of tries to talk about why this matters, but it doesn't do so in a really effective way. First of all, there's an inaccuracy. Langston Hughes did not experience the lives both as a black and a white man. He only experienced life as a black man. So there's some inaccuracy here. And then we have talking about racial issues, not just suffering from one race. I mean, I think I get the idea that the author's trying to convey here, but it's not articulated very well. It's implied. So I said this is a B quality conclusion, not an A quality conclusion. There are quite a few errors in writing conventions. There was some words in here that, like here, this ECHT, ect, life, that actually shows up a couple times, this ECHT. So I'm not sure what that is about. And there were a couple places, I think there was an its that was used incorrectly, and a few other little typos like that were distracting. In terms of punctuation, the quotes were not punctuated correctly in the sense that many of the quotes did not state the line numbers. Oh, actually, as I refer back to this, I realized I made a mistake. So the line numbers are stated in the text, like here, in line 13 of the poem. So actually, in this case, you don't need the line numbers at the end if you say what line number it is in what you're writing. So actually, in this case, I should adjust that. So I'm going to say, for this, few errors. There was an instance of a semicolon being used where a colon should have been used. That happened at the end of the first body paragraph. You have portray the theme, life is full of greatness and hardships. This semicolon should be a colon because here we're introducing a theme. A colon introduces ideas. A semicolon separates ideas. So because I'm introducing the idea, like here's the theme, colon. So this should be a colon. We can't evaluate the writing process because this is a copy of the original paper, so we can't see the revision history or the comments, so I left that blank. And it does meet the requirements of MLA formatting effectively. So overall, when you're looking at the overall grade, you can look at where do your highlights generally fall. And the other thing to note is usually the ideas at the top, the rows at the top, are more important than the rows later down. So at the top, I'm in the C. Here, moving into the C plus, B minus. C plus, B minus. Here goes B minus. Well, I'd say this is a low B minus paper. So overall grade here, be a B minus. And in terms of percent, 80%. So now that we have practiced using a rubric on an example paper, you can practice using this rubric on your own paper as you move into the final stages of revision and editing.